Happy Friday, beer runners, and welcome to an early morning edition of the iRunOnBeer Friday 5. I know I always upload these Friday morning, but I usually record them earlier in the week, and you can always tell if I'm doing my recording in the morning before work or in the afternoon after work based on what I am drinking in the video. So obviously an early morning episode, gotta stick with coffee before I head to work. I don't think they'd appreciate it if I had a beer in me before I got there. So this week's edition of the iRunOnBeer Friday 5, we're focusing on a very important aspect of running that I think is often either overlooked by runners or just frankly ignored because people don't have time for it, and that is warming up before you run. You've heard me talk about it on past episodes about injury prevention and things like that, enhancing recovery, and it is just, I've learned, especially over the last year or so, just how essential warming up properly is before especially tougher workouts, but also during races, etc. And I've been able to see how much of a benefit that's had on my performance. So I just wanted to go over sort of some of the key things that I use to get warmed up before a workout, and go over my 5 favorite kind of moves or exercises to get warmed up before a run. So before we jump into specific exercises, workouts, routines, etc., one thing I just wanted to touch on real quick is, like I said in the beginning, I know running warm-ups is often an overlooked or ignored part of running workouts, just because as runners we just want to focus on the run. We don't have time for the warm-up, we don't have time for the cool down, etc. We'd rather just get out there, go for a run, and leave the warm-up off the list, leave the cool down off the list, and just get to the actual workout itself. And it's hard. I mean, I feel like the only advice that people ever give is you just have to start thinking about the warm-up as part of the run as opposed to thinking of it as something in addition to the run, but that's really what it takes. And I don't know what it was for me that kind of shifted that mindset, because I'd heard that a bunch of times, people telling me you just have to think of the warm-up as part of the run, and I was like, yeah, but it's not part of the run, it's a separate thing that I have to do in addition to the run. But then starting to work with a coach and him encouraging me to start warming up a lot more, and me starting to take that warm-up routine more seriously, once I started to do it and my warm-up routine became habit, then in my mind I started to think about it more as part of the run. So it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision to do so, but by working the warm-up into my routine, slowly over time it unconsciously changed to me thinking of my warm-up as part of my run. But there are also some things that you can do to just make it a little bit easier. For me, I work out, or I live in an apartment complex, so I have to walk from my door out into the parking lot, and then from the parking lot out into the street before I can run. So I use that walk from my apartment to the street when I can actually start running as the area where I'm gonna do my warm-up. So it's not really adding any time because I'd have to walk that distance anyway, but rather than just simply walk that distance, I'll do a couple dynamic warm-up moves and things like that to get me to the starting point of my run. So that's just an easy way that you can incorporate some of these warm-up techniques and just do some things, like I said, just to get your muscles warmed up, loosened up, and ready to go to kick off a good workout. So without further ado, let's jump into the specific moves that I do, or 5 of my favorite moves, and hopefully it helps you start incorporating more warm-up drills and things like that into your exercise. Kicking things off with number 1 is my all-time favorite move to do as part of my warm-up routine, and no matter how short I am on time, this is the thing that I will always do to get my muscles warmed up no matter what. If I'm racing, if I'm just going out for a recovery run, etc., I feel like it hits a lot of muscle groups, it stretches my muscles out, and also just kind of activates some specific muscle groups I want to activate before a run, just to have my legs feeling good and ready to go before a run, even a recovery run or anything like that, and that is walking lunges. Again, this is very easy to build in, just your walk from your front door to wherever you're going to be running. Just fit in a couple walking lunges to, like I said, activate the quads, stretch out the hip flexors, stretch out and activate the glutes, just get your legs warmed up and ready to go for a run. Walking lunges are incredibly easy to do, and like I said, especially easy to work into, just to walk from your front door to the street to get a run in. I usually do 10 on each side to get things started if I'm short on time, or I'll go a little bit longer if I have some extra time. And actually, this one is 2 parts because my second favorite move, or number 2 on my list of 5, is the walking lunge with a twist. So if you're unfamiliar with the walking lunges, it's pretty simple. It's basically just a forward lunge. So when you step forward, you kind of take an extended step and dip into a lunge position where your knees over your ankle on your front foot, and you're kind of extending that back leg backwards to stretch out, like I said, the hip flexors, work the quads, hamstrings. It really just activates all the muscles in your legs. But then to add an additional twist, pun intended, is if you do the walking lunge with a twist, as you step forward and plant that front foot, you twist your upper body towards the leg that's out in front. So if you're stepping forward with your right leg, as you go down, you're going to twist your upper body to the right. This you got to play around with if you've never done it before. It's definitely a little bit tricky balance-wise. One thing that's helped me is I would take sort of a wider step. So rather than just walking in a straight line when I'm doing these walking lunges, I'll stick my front leg as I'm stepping out forward, but then also out to the side a little bit, just to give myself a wider base to help with that balance. But yeah, just adding, like I said, a twist to the workout itself, and also activating the core, upper body, and things like that, just really is a full body warm up to get you ready to go for your run. So as I'm walking outside, I'll start with the lunges, move into the lunges with the added twist, then I move on to moves number 3 and 4, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with if you participated in any kind of group sport or anything like that in elementary school, middle school, high school. I feel like we did these every day before practice, no matter what we were doing. It was always a favorite to loosen up the legs and get you ready to go. So number 3 and 4 are going to be high knees and butt kicks. Like I said, I'm sure everyone's familiar with these. Everyone's done these before. But again, I'll move from the lunges with a twist, and then as I continue my walk out to the street, I'll move into high knees first, and I'll usually do about 10 to 20 on either side, depending on how much time I have. It really doesn't add that much time, but like I said, it's all a mental game that I'm playing with myself, but it'll also just be based on how much distance I have left before I get to the gate, etc. So I'll just kind of do a quick count of high knees first, and then move right from the high knees into the butt kicks, like I said, just to continue to activate different muscles in my legs, get a little loosened up, get a little warmed up before the run. If you've never done the moves before, high knees is where you're just kind of running forward. You're trying to stay very light on your feet. That's probably one of the most important things to focus on. Sometimes I'll put my hands out in front of me to try to hit my hands with my knees, but you're just in rapid succession kind of taking quick strides and really exaggerating how high your knees are coming up, just to stretch out your hamstrings, hip flexors, etc. And will also help improve your form and make you a little bit more efficient, because it's training the muscles that you want to activate in your stride to make you a more efficient runner. So definitely a great way to warm up before a run. And then same thing with the butt kicks, move number 4. What you're doing there is keeping your quads almost perpendicular to the ground, so keeping them straight down, but also doing those quick, really rapid succession steps. But instead of moving your legs forward, you're keeping your quads, like I said, knees pointed straight down towards the ground, and just trying to kick the bottom half of your leg back and literally kick your butt with the heels of your feet. So very easy to tell if you're doing it correctly, but just trying to move your feet really quickly in rapid succession, and again, making sure that you're landing nice and light on your feet as you go. So before we jump into number 5, just wanted to recap, those are 4 very simple moves that you can work into a warm-up routine, and some of the most important ones, I think, because they activate a lot of the essential muscles that you're going to need while you're run, and they also focus on helping to improve your stride and to train you to run a little bit more efficiently. So it works on a lot of different scales, gets your muscles warmed up, gets you loosened up, but also kind of helps improve your stride as you go along. There are so many more warm-up routines or workouts or moves or things like that that you can do. A simple Google search will probably give you hundreds of warm-up routines, but one thing I wanted to focus on with this video is just keeping things as simple as possible. So if all else fails, if I'm in a rush or anything like that, those first 4 moves are always the things that I'm going to do. I always have time to work those in. You can really do those in probably less than 5 minutes, but just something really quick and easy to, like I said, just get those legs loosened up, get those muscles working, so that you can hit a hard workout without fear of risk of injury or anything like that, and not need any warm-up time once you actually get the workout started, because you've already put in the time to warm up. The reason I wanted to do that quick recap of those moves and talk about how there are plenty of others that you can fit in if you do the research, is because number 5 is moving from a warm-up routine or specific moves into the actual warm-up portion of a run. And I think it's important to separate that from a workout, because especially since starting to work with a coach and him emphasizing how important that is, I have started working a warm-up mile into every single run that I do. So if my coach sends me a workout that says I'm going to be doing a 50-minute steady state run, or I'm going to be doing 10 by 400 meter running intervals, I know that that's my workout, but I also need to do at least a mile of warm-up ahead of time. And like I said, that just is essential for making sure that when you start the actual workout portion of your run, you are ready to go, your legs are loosened up, ready to carry that load without risk of injury or with less risk of injury. So that's why number 5 of my most essential or most important warm-up moves or routines that you could do is start running a warm-up mile for every single workout that you do. Again, like I said, This is almost, there's no way, everyone's just going to tell you have to think of it as part of your run. That's going to be the easiest way to do it and not think of it as a burden. I don't know what it was in me that kind of made that switch. I think most importantly for me was working with a coach who basically mandated that I had to be doing this warm-up mile. So again, as I started to do a warm-up mile or work a warm-up mile into my runs every week, eventually it becomes habit, and that kind of unconsciously changes the thought pattern in your head. So when you're going out for a run, you know you have to get that warm-up mile in first, and you're already kind of planning for the time that that's going to take. And I've been doing it now I started working with my coach in October, I think it was. And so now I actually have like a specific spot where I'm like, okay, this is where my actual workout begins, because it's a little bit more than a mile from my house. So I know that's how far I have to go before I know that I'm finished warming up, and then from there I can actually begin the formal workouts. Like I said, warm-ups are a tricky thing because we all know how important they are. We've all seen the benefit of those, of the warm-up routines and things like that, running a warm-up mile, just the importance of loosening yourself up before a run. But we also all know that that takes a little bit of time, especially a warm-up mile. If you're doing it right, my warm-up mile usually takes about 11 to 12 minutes. I'm running at a very slow pace, just giving my legs a chance to wake up, especially running early morning miles. Everything's very stiff from sleeping. Everything's just been relaxed for the last 8 hours, and so just making sure I'm giving my body plenty of time to find its rhythm and just kind of get into the routine of getting ready to run. So as I said before, when I start that actual workout, I'm ready to hit the ground running, ready to start that hard effort, because I've given my legs the proper amount of time to warm up. So can't emphasize enough how important just fitting in some kind of warm-up is, but especially getting in that warm-up mile before a workout. So just doing a quick recap of the 5 things that make up my bare bones warm-up routine before a run. Always going to start with lunges, go from the walking lunges into a walking lunge with that twist, that upper body twist, moving from there into the high knees into the butt kicks, and then I'm ready to go, ready to start the run. But before I start the actual workout portion of the run, I'm always going to get in the warm-up mile. Like I said, warm-up routines can range from just a couple moves to a 10-15 minute warm-up of just exercises even before the warm-up run. It really just depends on how much time you have, how much time you want to dedicate to that warm-up. But these are the things where I'm crunched for time. No matter how little time I have, these are the things that I'm always going to fit in no matter what. The only exception to this for me is for a recovery run, I don't do a warm-up mile, only because the pace that I'm running for my recovery runs is basically the same pace that I'm running for a warm-up mile anyway. So the whole recovery run I kind of look at as a warm-up mile, or as a warm-up pace. So I don't necessarily feel the need to run a warm-up before a 35-minute recovery run, because I'm going to be moving at that slower pace anyway. There's plenty of research out there to tell you why it's so important to warm up before your runs, but as I've said time and time again in this video, for me, I just think of it as giving your legs a chance to warm up and loosen up so that they're ready to put in a good effort on a run. This is especially true on race day. So just some anecdotal evidence if you need it. For long distance races especially, as I'm thinking about half marathon and marathon, I used to always just think of the first mile, 2 miles, 3 miles as the warm-up period of my race. So I would always start my races a lot slower, just giving my legs a chance to warm up before I really started to pick up the pace later in the race. Obviously, this leads to slower race times because you're starting a lot slower than you could if you did your warm-up ahead of time. Back then, when I first started running long distance races, my thought process was, it's going to be really tough to run these 13 miles or these 26 miles, whichever race I'm doing. Why should I waste energy running mileage ahead of time when I could just focus all of that energy on getting through the race? And in some way that made sense in my head, but then again, when I started working with a coach and he sort of explained it to me that if you're doing a warm-up correctly, you're not really expending any energy because you're running at so much slower of a pace than you would be normally. You're just, like I said, giving your legs a chance to warm up to get ready for a harder effort. So started running a warm-up at least mile before all of my races. I'll usually go a little bit further if it's a marathon or half marathon, again, just to give my legs extra time to prepare for the race. And that just allows me to start the race a lot stronger, and has allowed me, as far as times are concerned, to shave significant time off of my PRs, because I'm able to pace myself a lot more closely to my actual race pace than having to start a lot slower to give my legs a chance to warm up early on in those early miles of the race. There's no one prescribed way that's going to work for everyone, one warm-up routine that's going to be perfect for every single person. You kind of have to play around with it, like I said, play around with the timing, how many moves you want to do, etc. but I cannot stress enough how important it is to just start trying some things, trying to work some warm-up routines, warm-up moves, and things like that into your daily workouts, and I guarantee you'll see an improvement just in how you're feeling on your run, because your legs will be looser. They might not be as stiff when you're starting out because you got that stiffness out during the warm-up, and then also just the effort that you're able to put in, because you'll be more ready to go when you start that actual workout. So if you take one thing away from this video, it's just to start trying a few things. You don't have to go out tomorrow for a run and do some long 20-30 minute warm-up routine, but just start doing a couple moves. Just find what works for you. Try some of the moves that I went for, look up some other options, find some things. Think back to high school, middle school sports, some of the warm-ups you used to do, karaoke, grapevines, any of those things, and just find what works for you and start kind of slowly piecing your own warm-up routine together from a bunch of different options. You can use some of these, use some of the ones that you find online, and just put together whatever feels best for your legs, whatever has you feeling the most fresh when you start your run. So hopefully this helps. Like I said, if you take one thing away, it's just to start trying some different warm-up routines. I can't emphasize enough how much of a benefit it will have on how much better you're feeling on your runs week to week. So my challenge for you this upcoming week before next week's Friday 5 is to just do some research online, find some moves that you like, and put together your own personal warm-up routine, and then let me know in the comments below what you decide to do. I'd love to hear what you start incorporating into your weekly training routine. So thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful to you. As always, congratulations on making it through another week. Happy Friday. You've definitely earned the weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.